Welcome everybody to the Sacred Self-Healing Energy Forecast and Discussion for September 21. My name is Jona Bryndis, and as always, we're going to start with the review for August. It'd be cool if you guys shared a few of your insights, maybe things that help to contextualize. You don't have to have it all sort of figured out. It's more or less about witnessing other people's personal transformations, and that can help us to contextualize our own journey. So we will be looking into the forecast of collective energies for September, which means we are not looking into some kind of channelings or clairvoyance. We're looking into observations that have already been made. It is the so-called energy analysis. And those of you who work with me directly here at transCODES, you have already gone through the personal transformations reading. So along with this energy analysis every month, I also offer to do this for the individuals that come to this energetic tune-up session. As a result of this session, I produce an energy alignment every month, which is free on SoundCloud. This month's energy alignment is called Synchronicity of Purpose, and you will get the link for this wonderful 20-minute mini meditation here in the recording description for you to download. Yeah. So how did August go for you guys? How did this phenomenal manifestation energy that I talked about last month, how did this play out for you? And the theme of the month, August, which was synergy, overcoming fear through synergy. How did this go for you guys? Does anybody want to share?
I can definitely say that I've had some forward motion in my career moves, and I've really had to step outside of my comfort zone to make this happen. So for me, it's really, really exciting. Just taking on that, the action steps, and ensuring that I'm moving forward in a way that's what I want for myself. So it's been really exciting for me to watch how that unfolds. And I don't know what to say except fear has boundaries. And I was able to step over that fear element and take a risk. Well, what I saw as a risk, but in the direction of what I wanted for myself. And it's unfolding in a way that I could have never foreseen, and I'm having opportunities that are coming from areas that I never expected. So it's a wonderful thing for me to just have the verification unfolding in my 3D life, everything that you have been saying. So it's cool, Jona. Thank you very much.
Well, I didn't expect that, Heather. Yeah, because I know that these transformations aren't always so clear for us in the way that you just expressed them. You said something very important, and that is you had to step out of your comfort zone. You gave this characteristics such as risk taking, or such as you could have never imagined. This is very interesting and literally super to the point, because this is exactly basically what I said. Those of us who will be willing to do that, yeah, they will feel progress. They will feel unexpected support. Unexpected support is a different way of saying synergy. Right? But if you don't mind me asking you, Heather, what made that possible for you? What made you, or finally allowed you to step out of your comfort zone? You also said something about the risk taking, that it appeared to be a risk at the time, indicating that it might not really look like that anymore in hindsight, right? Because if you have good results, right, whatever bet you made wasn't a bet, wasn't a risk, right? But in your own sort of personal subjective words, what allowed you to step beyond your fears?
I don't have a definitive direct answer for that. It has been a lot of guiding and mentoring, and the word that you use is embodiment. So embodying the information that's being brought forward to me has taken me to a different level of consciousness, and I have a very different perspective than what I did before. And it's just all the same conversation in terms of how we grow as we grow. And taking the information and applying it to the opportunities that come my way, and just forward. You know what, it's baby steps. It's one step after the next. There is no way for me to
Probably not one particular step either, right? It's probably built, probably.
Yeah,
Right?
it's a foundation that's built off of a solid awareness, solid decision making, being present in the moment with my choices, absolutely everything that you have been asking us to do, and bringing forward, shedding light on the shadows of these really critical conversations. And I've just been baby stepping these action steps, and so I've moved forward because of that.
Yes. Thank you, Heather, for sharing. Yeah, this gives hope. Gives hope. Actually, Justine is chiming in here. She says it's almost word for word for her. Um, there's something that I heard in what you said, because I've already analyzed the energies for September, and that sounded to me, you didn't say it this way, but I can tell you what it sounded like to me. It was the moment that you said yes to yourself, yes to who you are, and maybe even what you need and what you want. Sometimes people get a little scared when I say this, when I say what I need, what I want, because of who I am. All right, this is sometimes scary because people often don't know what they want, or they think they don't know what they want because there's something they're holding on to. Yeah, you mentioned sort of the shadow of things, or the aspects that are a little hidden to us, actually, where we are blindsided, or maybe simply because they're flying under our radar. So it's really good to hear this, that it can work, when you, instead of trying to avoid confrontation, when you go into this place, this embodiment place, where you say, well, look, you might think or feel that this is a limitation, or you might disagree, but this is who I am. And when it comes to job, it's pretty simple. If the job doesn't pay enough so that I can pay my bills, or so that I can move forward in my life, then, or if the rules or the whatever regulations in my job aren't working for me, for my consciousness, for my values, well, then I can't do this. And it's so interesting to watch this, because many of us fear nothing more than that confrontation. But when you actually do it, my experience is that the world responds positively. People might go into like, okay, well, then it's not going to work out. But quite frankly, someone, and this applies to relationships as well, who says, well, because you don't agree with what I want you to do, I mean, within reason, obviously. I'm not talking about job descriptions. I'm talking about the conditions of working, or the conditions of a relationship. It's all or nothing. It's, then nothing works here. This happens very, very rarely. So if we start actually explaining to people what it actually is that makes us say that, and that we've thought this through, that we're not just some dummy or whatever, or some kind of narcissistic person, wanting things to go our way, but that there is something behind that that points at me being, or needing to be true to myself, and that is worth it to me. I need to be true to myself, to my health, to my mental health, to my emotional health, and often also, which is less aware to people, but often also to our energetic health. And to say this out loud, you'd be surprised what happens in other people, because it speaks to their true self. It speaks to their truth. If it doesn't speak to their truth, then there is none. Okay, that means that they are not in that same sort of compatibility range, which really means it wasn't really a loss for you. Now, if something is true and you are true, then solutions or synergies can be found. Yeah, the only places where this doesn't work is when you are standing in truth and you know that you're standing in truth, and the other person isn't or doesn't want to. Then you're not going to come to an agreement. And in that case, it's probably the best for both of you, especially for you, because if you have to corrupt your own integrity in order to, and you can fill in the blank, get the approval, the validation from somebody else, or some kind of, paycheck, but you have to literally violate yourself in the process, then this is not for your higher good. Thank you, Heather, for giving hope to a lot of people here. Cindy is sharing, I found solace and emerged NC. She's spelling this with a dash in between. First aid, so to speak, only through connection and going within. The only place I really felt safe. So Cindy, this sounds to me like you are surrounded or you are immersed in a place where you cannot feel safe, or where you cannot feel safe when being authentic, when being truthful. And in those cases, because sometimes we have these kind of jobs, or we have these kind of relationships or situational conditions where we have to live with something, we have to, I don't want to say suck it up, but we have to, somehow cope with it. In those situations, it's sometimes the only thing we can do to go within and, sort of find that centering and that grounding within ourselves. This, however, does not work on the long run. I want to strongly warn you guys that you adopt some kind of coping mechanism where you check out inwardly. There are certain things you cannot meditate away. Yeah, so just because I'm an energy healer, I'm not going to say, oh, you can heal everything with energy. That's not the case, because there's a lot of situations and things in our life that can violate our boundaries, that can violate our understanding, our values of love and relationship, or like how humans should be, or that can violate our understanding of health, where we have to step up, where by not stepping up, by not saying no, by not saying here is a boundary, we need to renegotiate this, we become silently complicit. And when we become silently complicit, guys, our spiritual health is in danger, also our energetic health, simply because what we then have to deal with is this inner schism, the inner cognitive dissonance that we now have as a result of us not standing by ourselves, not saying yes to ourselves. And that can sometimes create more damage, more long-term damage. Because if you think about it, the things that we need to be confident, to be able to trust in ourselves, to, like Heather, like you said, to know that when you're fully present and you make very conscious choices, that this is what drives you forward, and not sort of conformism or trying to please other people. Yeah, then we can see the greater purpose of things. The greater purpose of things will never reveal itself to us if we are basically just trying to avoid conflicts or confrontations. Yeah, so when it comes to purpose and meaning in life, the only way to discover them is interrelational, which means in relation to others or to the outside world, which means we have to learn to interact with the outside world. And sometimes this means that we have to avoid places that are toxic, yeah, or people that are poisonous, yeah, or work places or relationships that are really unhealthy for us, or foods or habits and addictions that really kill ourselves slowly. Yeah, so that's a boundary that you cannot out vibrate that by checking out or avoiding sort of maybe having to refrain from something, or having to turn something down, or having to set or enforce a boundary. Denise is sharing, it feels to me that the last month or these last months have been life-changing, making a change into the direction and the courage to trust in the heart's guidance. Yeah, it was a very rich month in terms of the right time, the right space, and knowing where to get the empowerment, the medicine from within. A very healing month in that way for you, Denise. Yeah, these things don't always basically play out the same way in each of our lives, and that has to do with us being in different stages, also sometimes in different situations. What I suggested in the course of the weekly updates is that we at least have some kind of strategy or some kind of planning. If you are in a job that is not good for you, or you in some kind of environment that is toxic for you, but you have to finish the job, or you have to finish the project or whatever, then set yourself a goal, and say, okay, I'm finishing this up, and then as soon as that's done with, I'm out of here. Or already start new projects, start looking forward to maybe a new job, or many of you are freaking out right now because of COVID vaccine mandates. Okay, these are very good examples for that. If this is something that makes you feel uncomfortable, yeah, and if your body or your inner sense says that you don't want to take the vaccine, maybe because you don't feel that there's enough data yet, or maybe you don't feel that you need it, or for whatever reason, it's irrelevant, and somebody forces you to do something, or else you lose the job, it doesn't matter really if you are willing to take a vaccine or not. There is an infringement here that one can feel, and that is something that needs to be reviewed. If this is okay for you, this would be like your partner saying, I'm only gonna continue dating you if you. I mean, I'm just sort of pulling this out of thin air here, like put 100 grand on the table, or if you build me a house, or if you if you carry me on your hands, or if you adore me and let me walk on water, or if I'm always right, it doesn't matter. It's an infringement. Yeah. There's many other examples that can come to my mind here. I hope that this came across what I'm talking about. It's about us understand, yes, ultimatums, Heather, yes, any kind of ultimatum is a kind of an infringement. However, there is something about ultimatums with ourselves, and that is a different thing. Any one of you who has ever decided to quit something, like quit drinking, or quit taking a drug, or quit smoking, or quit eating chocolate, or quitting watching Netflix or whatever, knows that there is in our psychology that there's a bit of a stressor here, because as soon as we realize that something is not good for us, and as soon as we say we're going to quit it, if we then don't do it, we have a problem with trust in ourselves. Yeah, so we have to be careful with ultimatums, because they are, from an energetic point of view, like a vow. Okay, so that's why many of us carry things such as karmic debt and karmic ties, because they're, when we're not very conscious about these kind of things that we are vowing to ourselves, or when we are giving other people ultimatums, we got to be careful with this, because it creates energetic ties in us. Yeah, a better way to deal with things like setting yourself a goal, is to talk to yourself in a positively reinforcing way, and to say, it'd be really, really healthy for me if I could quit drinking by the end of the month, or I really want this because my body doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel healthy if you know, I don't stop this, or you know, every time I do this. So to reinforce the sense for health, yeah. Oftentimes you will find yourself in a situation where you don't know what the fix or the solution is, but you know, your job is not to figure this out necessarily. Your job is to say no to everything that is unhealthy for you. That is your task, to say no to what you know is unhealthy for you. Sometimes we don't know. This is possible often in relationships. And you find out one day, oh my God, you know, this was a total, you know, toxic relationship. And you look back and you're like, oh, what took me so long? And then we start beating ourselves up for this or judging ourselves up for this. Understand that that too creates energetic ties. You can only see what you see. But when you see it, you need to follow through on it. That's embodiment. And sometimes the best way to move forward, yeah, to follow through, is to start by saying no to the things that you already know aren't working or that aren't healthy for you. Anyone else? Jesse, your hand is raised. Did you want to share?
Hello.
Hi there.
Hey there.
I
So
like
yeah,
the
I thought I'd
politeness.
oh, so I thought I'd share something really neat that happened for me in August.
Uh-huh.
That was really special. I was basically able. So over the past 3 years, I've been doing a lot of work with. I started my journey about 3 years ago, and this past spring, through the awareness work and such, and the coaching, I've been able to kind of observe a lot of my core conditioning, which is tied to fear of loss and abandonment, in terms of relationships with other people. So I was really, this spring able to observe my first uh, experience kind of start to finish, from all the triggers and all the mental looping and just everything as a whole. And then in August, it happened essentially for the third time. So I was able to really sit with my trigger and sit with my conditioning, from the very start, from the second I was triggered, over a period of a few weeks, just to kind of observe and witness all the patterns and all the behaviors and everything. And then I was able to reach out to one of your proteges that I've worked with, and she helped me to kind of start to understand really, truly what was going on. And then I connected with you the same day, which was just incredible. And so after 3 years, this past August, I've finally gotten down to the root of my core conditioning, which is fear of loss and abandonment in terms of relationships. And I'm 38 and I've struggled with this for a long, long time. So I really realized a few things that I need to do to get through this. And it's taken me such a long time to get here, but now I have a foundation, and that's trust that you help me understand, and then having a space to talk about things without being judged or attacked. So those two things were huge for me to finally learn and understand. And
It sounds to me that you now see something like purpose in this, okay? Not just because it's the theme of September, but like as if you are, now that you kind of know what this core issue is. Jesse, has this changed the way you look at your past experiences now? Does this help you to contextualize them in a different way? Because it feels like there's a lot of relief right now for you. you know, like
Well,
it feels relieving, right? To know what you're dealing with. This is what it sounds like to me. You're happy about that, right? It's not solved yet. You say, you
so
know, now I know what
I'm,
what I need to work on, right?
yes, I might sound a little scared and a little nervous and a little kind of in ego right now, but truly it's profound to know now that I have the tools and I see kind of what I wasn't seeing before, you know, with
Mhm.
everything. And just, I mean, this last time sitting with the trigger alone, like just, and then pinpointing the energy blockages and all this stuff and just observing the mind and the looping and just even the pain, you know, it was so painful, but you know, it really helped me to realize that I don't want anybody to go through that pain ever, you know, if I can help it. So just in that sense alone, you know, understanding truly what deep pain feels like. I mean, there's so many wonderful things that came out of last month, and now I feel like I can be in a place of truth moving forward in a relationship because I know that A, it takes time to build trust, which is a foundation, and B, I got to have a space where I can communicate without being fear, without having, you know, fear of being judged or attacked. And that's my must have. So now I know that, you know, I can put my best foot forward, and it's exciting. I mean, it's taken me a long time to get here, but August was a turning point for me.
You sound excited. That's why I was pointing at it. You know, like Heather, I was trying to see if you can see what it actually is that is bringing the relief now. You know, I mean, obviously you're looking forward to something new, right? This is always exciting. But that moment when you realize, I think the Heather called this the shadow side of things, the hidden part, right? The stuff that she couldn't see before. Yeah. So if we take the negative connotation out of shadow, right, and if we just look at it sort of what it means, yeah, the part of us that kind of stands in the dark, that's not illuminated. And as soon as we illuminate it, and yes, like you said, it can be painful in the moment of discovery, because you know it's often exactly that part of us that carries the core wound. Yeah, but when you actually okay with looking at it and feeling it, I really liked how you said that, how you experience the pain in a conscious way, and how you realize out of compassion really that you don't want anybody else to go through this. Well, you don't want yourself to go through this either, right? So here's something extremely healing in just in that experience, just in you experiencing your own pain in a conscious way. You know, now no longer need to be afraid of it. You see, you do not need to be afraid of it because you came out of it. You know that there is a life after. Yeah. And usually, and this is what happens to all of us when we go through those kind of cathartic moments in life, there is a sort of a new chapter that starts, a healthier one, because we're no longer afraid of the biggest of the boogeyman. Yeah, the boogeyman is always our core wound. Yeah, when you encounter the boogeyman, and right after, you feel good because you're no longer afraid. That's what I was trying to show you. Yeah, so that is the part here, very important for you to remember when you go forward. You know, it's not the end of the world. When we hit our core wound, we often get into this place of, oh my God, I'm gonna die. There's no life after, you know. And then we experience ourselves alive, and we're like, oh, you know, and all the new stuff is coming in, all these doors that are opening, yeah. And it's much better than I thought it would be. And this is a very a good message for everybody, Jesse, because it gives hope to people, yeah. And this isn't really the individual stepping stones that sometimes unlock this in us. You know, I don't take any credits, you know, for any of this. You know what I mean? This isn't really coming from the outside. All you needed really is confirmation, just somebody to confirm this for you. Yeah, very beautiful what you shared.
Well, yeah, and the last thing too I'd add to that. So the first girl that I met that I really got triggered this spring, she has very much kind of been on her own journey as well. So I just, you know, she was the first person that just on an energetic standpoint that we just had such a deep connection. And so
Mhm.
me and her crossing paths were, you know, I think, just a big turning point in my healing process. So it's just a testament to that, you know, as I grow and progress in this work, I'm crossing the path of many more, and it seems to be more and more frequent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just wanted to add that's pretty neat
Yeah, and
that
this
my
is a
turning point
whole,
was with her.
you know, this is a whole different topic here, what these relationships in our life mean, where we go through lots of learning, but also lots of pain, but where we can look back and say, you know, it was painful, that experience in the end, but there was so much. I can see the purpose of this now. I can see how that was, to a degree, quote unquote, needed for me to get to a certain place with myself. And this energetic connection that you've mentioned can be quite confusing sometimes, because when we meet someone that we deeply resonate with, it's not always because we're supposed to, you know, marry them or stay with them forever. Karmic relationships, they indicate to us energetically that here's something important. It's almost like it's not mystical, really. There's something in that resonance between the two people that your system recognizes as an important experience. It's neutral, yeah, neutral, meaning that it can still mean that you have to go through a lot of pain with that person, yeah, but it's for your higher good in a way. Do you know what I mean? So the outcome of that is positive. So we just need to be disciplined in this, because especially, Jesse, when you're an energetically sensitive person, and a lot of people are commenting here, by the way, you have a fan club, yeah, because many people here are in that same boat. Yeah, Heather is saying you're in really good company here. Justine's company is sharing best foot forward. That's been her mantra, you know, like literally and symbolic, you know, like whatever the positive that you can pull out of that. But when you're energetically sensitive and you meet a person that is also energetically sensitive, it can sometimes feel very, very deep. And our system then tries to idealize it somehow. It goes, there's a very high tendency to go into this, oh, we're meant to be together, you made for me, something like that. And this is something we discuss very, very frequently amongst energetically sensitives. My standard reply to that is, sounds a bit like a downer for people in that moment when they meet someone like that, but it's like, get used to this, because the more authentic a person becomes, the more you begin to resonate with other people that are kind of on the same wavelength, and it will become more intense and more intense as you go. This doesn't mean that you have to marry every person that you resonate with. You know, all that really means is that you're learning what inner signals to follow. Yeah, what's for your higher good. So a lot of times, you know, you can have this with guys too. You can have this with children. You can have this with a dog. Okay, it doesn't really matter. It's just something that is signaling to you. It's a reference feeling in you that there is an important learning experience there for you. That's all that means. Neither good nor bad. Like as the ego wants it. Yeah, the ego wants only good experiences, right? So that's why
Well, I
we
thought
often
it was a sign that I was supposed to marry that person, so this is
yeah, of course. Oh, we all know. I know. I mean, without knowing anything. Do you know what I mean? This is what we all think, because this is how we're programmed. We're programmed, you know, to seek, yeah, this one person. Okay, and not to say that there isn't this one person out there, but we're looking for the wrong signs. We're going by the wrong things. Yeah, just because you have a resonance with someone doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything. In my life, everybody that I am surrounded with, there's not a single exception. I don't surround myself with people anymore where I don't resonate deeply. But that doesn't mean that I'm in love with everybody or, you know, I have a very monogamous relationship. Do you know what I mean? It means that I only want to be surrounded by people that I resonate with in this way. And that's why my standard response is get used to it. Get used to resonating with people on that level. It doesn't always mean romantic love. That's the part that we need to discipline. That's the part that we need to work on. Yeah, to not go into fantasy with it, into projection. Yeah, it doesn't exclude it either. But when you meet 100 people that you resonate with deeply, then you know what I mean. Yeah. Because the first 20, you'll think you have to marry them, and then you kind of get used to it. You're like, oh, that doesn't mean anything. It just means that there is a resonance here, that I'm really, surrounded or in the company of a person that understands me. And if I had to contextualize this in a more sort of spiritual way, I would say it is you're talking to another true self. You're talking to somebody else who is in truth, because that's what it feels like. Even if this person still hasn't figured out a lot of stuff, yeah, if they still have to go through healing processes and maturing processes like we all have to, yeah, there's no character judgment in that. But you will feel this resonance with people in general, men or women or whatever gender, who are vibrating on a certain level. And just because you haven't had this a lot in your life yet, doesn't mean that this isn't going to happen more from here on. Yeah, this is for all of us here very important to understand that in that moment where you step into your truth, when you say yes to yourself, when you align yourself to, really wanting to embody who you are, yeah, when you know who you are, yeah, then you begin to trust in things in a different way, and other people can feel that too, and that attracts different kinds of people into your environment. It's not mystical, yeah, it's like a vibrational match. But a vibrational match doesn't always mean that we have to love, romantically love this person. It doesn't mean that we have to do anything. It doesn't, I sometimes make fun of it and say, well, because whatever, there was a lightning strike the moment I met you, doesn't mean that I have to move to Portugal with you. It's just like a saying, it's like how our mind, this is what our mind does sometimes. It sort of puts things together and desperately tries to give it meaning. And this is what we're all up against here when it comes to purpose. Because purpose is not something that we can find or seek. Purpose is something that reveals itself to us. And that has to do with a certain synchronicity, this vibrational match. Thank you, Jessie, for sharing. This was a topic that I actually had on my list here as far as energetic resonances is concerned here for the month of September. That's why I took the opportunity. So I didn't want to talk over you. I just took the opportunity to also to move forward here with the forecast, because it's this kind of forecast is very much in regards to understanding really what the vibrational things are that we're dealing with, not so much the pictures or the actual happenings, okay, but what this means to us from within. And there is a certain synchronicity that is coming toward us here in September that will have a bunch of collective effects, meaning that people will respond to this in different ways. Whereas in August, we already felt this, sort of bifurcated expression. For some people, this was a wonderful month, yeah, with these great new insights and successes. And for other people, it was a very, very difficult month. And this will further split. This bifurcation will go on now till January, meaning that some of these split realities that we are experiencing in the world, the division, the separation that we are experiencing in this world, the division of perceptions, so to speak, that this will further progress and therefore also make, in the collective events, in the current events, and make this become more prevalent, more expressed. So yeah, and this can and will, especially in September, also affect our relationships and people that we choose to be surrounded with, yeah, including jobs or co-workers, yeah, or projects. So one of the sort of self-coaching mantras that can help us through this next month has to do with recognizing sort of the perceptional overlay, meaning, where our perspective is either limited or where it is kind of blindsided. So, it isn't going to lead us to a resolution right away. But if we can ask ourselves what we are holding on to, yeah, today, this also came to me as, and this is obviously an impossible question to ask yourself, but it goes into that direction. What am I not seeing? Yeah. Do you guys know what I mean with this when I say this? There is a certain investigative nature that we have to step into due to the power of our consciousness. We have to say, okay, wait a minute. Yes, this is what it appears like. And now let me feel into this. Let me allow myself to feel what it is, and then maybe contrast it and say, this is what it appears as, and this is what it feels like. Do you guys know what I mean? Because these two perspectives can sometimes be diametrically opposed. They can be very different. And to keep that in mind, because one of the biggest challenges here for September is resistance. Inner resistance to a certain experience. And Jessie gave us a very beautiful example just right now of how, when we hold on to, like certain types of pain, yeah, when we basically don't want to experience a pain, when we are resisting a certain kind of pain or a certain kind of fear, but it's usually the pain that we are resisting, and then the fear comes on top of the pain. So we're actually afraid of experiencing pain. That would be called holding on to something. We're holding on to the avoidance of a certain kind of experience or feeling. And what we need to question here is why we're doing this. Yeah, there's a comment here, not what seems to be, but what is. Yeah, but this is exactly the theme of the year here, these perception wars. Yeah, the inability to differentiate between what is and what things appear as. And it really forces us to go into that place of truth within ourselves. And if we can identify that there are basically two different realities within ourselves, then it means that there is a gap there somewhere in between, and that needs to be bridged. And the easiest way to do that, or no, I don't want to say easy, it's simple, but it's not easy, is to identify what it is that we are so desperately holding on to. Yeah, and simple example for that would be, you're going through some pain in a moment, or you're afraid of experiencing a certain pain, and ask yourself, what am I really afraid of? What's underneath that fear? Okay, let's say it happens. What then? What's underneath that? You will all find that there's at least 3 or 4 layers underneath your own resistance. And it isn't until you get to that place that is typically, sort of that core wound in us. Yeah, something really, really negative, something that we have more or less stored in our cell memory as sort of the Armageddon of emotional experiences. Yeah, what we are afraid of. We're basically projecting that onto everything. It becomes the drive in life, to avoid that kind of experience. If somebody has experienced shame as a child, this person will, 9 out of 10 times make every decision based on avoiding shame, based on avoiding rejection for someone with abandonment issues, based on avoiding guilt, avoiding some kind of, minimization or inferiority. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? It is only when we know what it is that we are resisting so much. And yes, I am using resisting and holding on to simultaneously, because it is the same thing. We're holding on to what we resist. It's the mirror of that. You're holding on to trying to avoid something, and what is that something that is on the other side of it? That's, your resistance. Yeah, that's been coming in for you. That's been coming forward for you, Denise. Yeah, it's what's going on for all of us. But really, when it gets really interesting is the next question, and that is what needs to be refrained from. What do I need to refrain from? Yeah, because in the course of us of trying to avoid, our core wound, yeah, the emotional Armageddon. Okay, we have formed a bunch of coping mechanisms, ways to maneuver around it, ways to navigate without rocking the boat, walking on eggshells, without, talking about the elephant in the room, without, confrontation, without, you name it, yeah, depending on what the situation is. And that is then something that we need to refrain from, because if we keep doing this, yeah, if we keep doing things the way we've always done them, then we will not get different results. We will not be able to see that which is actually blocking us. The moment we find out what blocks us, and this is there's a very common misconception here for many of you, is that's why you like clearings and stuff like that. You want somebody else to tell you what blocks you, okay? And then what? Yeah, preferably you want the other person to take the block away, okay? But that's not how this works, because this is basically stored into every single cell of yours, into your etheric template. Okay, because this is something that you have as your purpose to overcome. It's your job to do that. Nobody else can do that for you. And, many of you know this. Jeff and I started out with just clearing work in the beginning. We realized quickly that this doesn't really help people, because they pull in the stuff that were cleared, the blocks that were cleared in a clearing session, 5 minutes, 5 days later, because they keep applying the same coping mechanisms that they have been using, that they have been doing unconsciously. Obviously, it's all unconscious, yeah, and therefore keep blocking themselves again. So what needs to be refrained is the way I contextualize this for September, because it is not so much, what you are, what you think it is that you don't have, yeah, what you think it is that you need to get in order to. It is that you're doing something that is kind of blocking you in a way that increases resistance in you towards something. And whenever we have resistances towards something, we form cognitive dissonances, we form a dissonance within, and that then, and this is unfortunately the energetic truth of things, tends to attract, tends to pull that which we are most afraid of in. It energizes it. Yeah, so someone who's afraid of not having enough money to pay their bills, if you keep working around that, whatever it is that you do as coping mechanism, yeah, to avoid that confrontation with not being able to pay your bills, you will not actually change your situation, because it's still based on, what you're energizing, and that is the fear of not being able to pay your bills. It isn't until someone really steps out of that comfort zone, here bringing in as reference what Heather shared in the beginning, and what may appear to be a risk at the time. But it only appears risky for the ego because the ego says, oh no, let's not try something new. Let's just do it the way we've always done it. Yeah, that's how our ego works. It feels safer. Yeah, it appears safer to do the familiar. Yeah, this is really, really tricky about our ego. We need to understand that our ego will always feel safer and more secure with what it is familiar with. Whether it's good or bad, or whether it's healthy for us or unhealthy, it's not the ego's job really to decide that. The ego is run by avoiding fear and pain and seeking pleasure. That is the ego's job. And why does the ego have that job? Because that can keep us sane. It can keep us sane in times where what we're experiencing cannot be processed. I wanted to show you this just out of curiosity, because a lot of people ask sometimes. Don't think that this means you have to be able to see energies. This is just like it's actually not something I did. I usually do my own infographics. I pulled this from the internet a few years ago, and that's pretty accurate actually. What this can look like in a person. And now you may ask, well, how does a sort of a black blob, here? Block a person, right? Well, it can do that if the blob, for example, is right here, yeah, in front of the person's eyes, yeah, or ears, okay, because it messes or changes the perception of the person, yeah. So stagnant energy, for example, is something that people form, yeah, they form this, they excrete that energy when they're too afraid to move forward, yeah, and that comes from holding on to something, yeah. Or here, rips in the aura. Where do rips in the aura come from? Through trauma and through drugs. If you believe it or not, this is the reason why I'm such an opponent of THC, because smoking pot rips the aura. And as an energy healer, I can tell you that that is harder to heal, yeah, than most other things, because those are like they function like portals, yeah. And so the reason why a lot of people think they're doing something good by smoking pot is because they see too much, or they have anxiety, or have too much mental activity, and you smoke pot, okay, and your aura starts forming these fragments, yeah, and now you're literally inviting all the lower astral beings out there in, okay, so it's counterproductive. It's the opposite, yeah. Cords and attachments, yeah, these are like these energetic ties that I mentioned earlier. Those are they're like rubber bands. They're like invisible rubber bands between you and people, or between you and subjects. And it's not always just people. You can also form an energetic tie to an item, a place, yeah, a family. This is really irrelevant what it is. It has to do with an attachment. You are attached. Attachments are very similar to resistances. It's just the opposite. So resistance is like where you push something away and you don't want that and you try to avoid this. And attachment is where you try to pull it closer to you. Yeah. Energetic debris, guys, is something that we all have in our fields. We all produce that. It's like a metabolic byproduct, of just everyday sort of life force going through your system. That's why energetic grounding and centering and clearing is so important. Energetic sludge is something that can be picked up from others, that has to do with people around us, that or places as well. And there is so much more. Okay, this is just a tiny fraction of what actually can be seen in people's energy fields. Yeah, one of the things that we are seeing right now a lot is it doesn't look this way, but it plays in this area here, ears and forehead, 6 and 7 chakra, is this etheric overlay that I always talk about. It's almost like goggles, yeah. It's like or like a helmet, where people trying to ward off something that comes in from the outside. And that's a normal energetic protection mechanism that is actually good, but they're also shielding themselves off from actually connecting with the spirit world that could support them. So we have to find a middle ground here. We have to find something that can allow us to stand in our center, clear our energy field on a regular basis, avoid and actually heal these rips and holes and fragments in our etheric field, and learn how to do this. And this is not rocket science, it's not special or mystical, it's actually very technical and easy to learn for everybody. The relevance for this year in September is because if you see yourself sort of in this sort of holistic way, where you see yourself composed of these 5 different dimensional layers of yourself, yeah, body, heart, mind, soul, and spirit. So the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and energetic components of your being, okay, then you'll see that in September, we are literally being challenged. So these arrows are the challenges that we are facing, yeah, where there's the most bombardment. We are experiencing challenges here on all 5 levels, especially, and this is new, this isn't something that we've had in this form before, a spiritual component that has to do with beliefs and life views and how we see life itself, how we see humans. In that way, it is spiritual and could lead to people also feeling this as some kind of religious impulse. And unfortunately, you know, it will most likely lead to expressions of religious fanaticism. Okay, so when this appears here, when we have a constellation like this, people usually, I'd say in colloquial English, you'd say they go nuts a bit. Yeah, and then what is supposed to be an impulse that leads a person into their own spiritual center, then sort of inverts and gets projected outwardly and turns into fanaticism. Yeah, so this is actually quite serious. Yeah, because this, when people experience this kind of impact and are not equipped, not ready, not prepared to deal with this, yeah, it can drive them into some kind of madness. Yeah. Yeah. Purpose reveals itself as what karmic cycle can be undone through this experience. And that's why a lot of the things that we are experiencing in September will have to do with relationships and jobs. Yeah. What am I learning here? Even if, you know, whether it's painful or joyful, doesn't matter. Yeah. What it has to do with progress in a way, even though we may feel at first that it's a crisis. But what is being undone here? What am I being forced to heal through this experience? A summary here of the challenges, you know, shown in this energetic analysis shows that there is a sort of a purge energy in September, based on a reality check, you know, most likely, you know, revelation of new data, new things, I mean, it's like literally every day right now. So that's not a surprise, but there's a purge component to this. And that means that there's a big release that needs to come. There is a sort of a collapse of the false self also that will be quite challenging for us. See, those of us who have been working on this for a while, we don't need to be afraid of this because we've already done this for years, okay, to really look at these aspects of these hidden aspects of ourselves and the secondary gains and the ego payoff and stuff like that. You know, but for the majority of people out there, okay, we're talking like 85%, and don't forget that. You know, just because you have gone through this and you feel sort of rock solid, okay, doesn't mean that you know, are unaffected, because the majority of people out there that surround you, whether it be at work, on traffic, you know, in some kind of social situations, or, you know, in more global, you know, economy, financial markets, and so forth. Those are all people too. Those are all humans too, right? When they experience this fall from the ivory tower, this collapse of the false self, that ain't funny. Yeah, and there's a lot of things that can happen here. Another aspect, is actually a sub aspect of that, is you know, to the collapse of that victim specialness, yeah, and self-pity that comes with it. Oh, my pain is worse than everybody else's pain. This will all be leveled out in September, trust me. Yeah, nobody's pain is more special than other people's pain. Yeah, because subjectively, it doesn't matter if it's you know, your lollipop that was taken away, your a girlfriend or boyfriend who betrayed you, or you lost a job, or you just had a baby. Okay, you know, there are certain ways of looking at things in a different way that allow you to recognize that, you know, people are subjectively experiencing their pain as the worst, but that doesn't mean anything. The only true meaning pain really has becomes visible to us when we share our pain. And then something beautiful happens. It's the synergy that I mentioned earlier. When we share our pain, and, you know, instead of trying to hide it or avoid it, or you know, pretend it's not there, what happens is that other people who experience the same or similar pain, that it opens things up for them as well, and we experience something that energetically we call, you know, this resonance. As something happens, and in this resonance, guys, the vibe, yeah, the vibrational energy of this interaction then lifts everything up. Yeah, it's like I mean, the true definition of synergy, really, you know, it's more than the sum of two. It's what happens when this comes together. There is an enormous power in this coming together. Challenge also here, aimlessness. This has to do with people feeling a lack of purpose, lack of meaning, not being able to make sense of things. I talked about this in the last energy update, how dangerous that is in September. One thing, this is you know, relating to the energetic aspects, but this is how it's actually going to play out, is that we will feel that we have no breathing space. And this can be literal, and this can be symbolic. Breathing space maybe in the sense of feeling infringed upon, feeling forced to be doing things, feeling boundaries overstepped, or breathing space actually in the actual literal sense of the word, not really, you know, being able to breathe right, feeling something like a restriction in your diaphragm, in your rib area. I read the most recent studies today, and that's indicating that 32%, more than 32% of people who've had COVID actually experiencing those COVID long haul symptoms. And the one that is most prevalent is the shortness of breath. And the interesting part of that is, and these will be the consecutive studies, because right now there's only correlations, but it looks like that people who have been vaccinated, that they seem to have similar symptoms like people who like long haul COVID, the COVID long haulers. In other words, there's something here that right now collectively restricts our breathing space. And I've mentioned this many times. It has to do with life force and the conversion within ourselves that is restricted right now. Many of us are going to be challenged by their own unhealed healer aspects, which means you know, we have to deal with anything from people pleasing to trying to comfort others and fulfilling other people's needs in sort of relation to our own needs. So it's very, very important that we prioritize correctly in September, and you'll see why. Yes, the control and infringement aspects, they are linked to the breathing space, but pretty much these are all linked with another. White shadow clearing is going to be very intense this month. Just real quick as a reminder, white shadow It's not the obvious, thing that we cannot love about ourselves. White shadow is actually the part of us that where we think we're doing a good job, where we think we're like all shiny and squeaky clean, and we're doing this just, because we're such a good person, or just because I love you, or just blah blah blah. If we are not fully honest with ourselves, this can be a huge ego trap. Okay, because sometimes, actually, in terms of white shadow, always, white shadow is a dark trait, a one that is really, really hard to discover because it looks good on the outside. Yeah. So this points at sort of fakeness and pretense. But sometimes white shadow is completely unaware to us. It's not that we're consciously faking something. It is just something where we think this is the way we need to show up, or where we think that is the way, the better way, or the higher route. Okay, so it's very, very tricky for those of us here working on the deeper aspects of ego. This will accompany you guys longer, because these are the white shadow aspects are much harder to detect. And of course, escapism and spiritual laziness. The aforementioned spiritual fanaticism, doesn't just apply to religions. It can also apply to New Age. I've been warning you about this for a long time already. Now, the opportunities that are in here in these challenges, if you will, in these energies from September, is that September actually comes with a very strong sort of renewal, new beginning. And sometimes that will come through catharsis, meaning through a crisis. And sometimes, if you can take this full frontal, if you can say, okay, I can feel this in me. Yes, it may feel like a risk, but I'm going to do this because I need to be true to myself. There is nothing more important in this life than being true to myself. And that is then basically, like Denise just shared here, the springboard for a whole new reality. It's like this quantum leap momentum that you will feel in September. New courage through self-awareness. It's really good timing for everybody to start their deeper spiritual journey. For one, because there's a lot of confusion out there, and this purpose seeking and trying to make sense of things is driving people into spiritual and religious organizations that are very questionable right now, and that are sort of offering some kind of rescue, or aliens, or whatever, political figures, or second comings. This is not the purpose of this. The purpose of us, due to the power of our consciousness, which is individuated, okay, is to realize what it is that we came here for as individuated soul selves. Yeah. So there is a really, really beautiful opportunity for true healing. Yeah. And with it, true growth. Yeah. Through spiritual development. Who would have thought? But there is an even growing body of people in medicine, in psychology, acknowledging that without spiritual contextualization, some things cannot be overcome in a healthy way. We need spirituality on some level, not religion. Religion is organized spirituality. Yeah, this is like a political party, if you will. But we need spirituality, preferably the one that comes from within ourselves, where we actually recognize that there is a higher power out there. Yeah, and we don't have to worship a statue or something like this. We can if we want to, if we understand that this higher power actually acts within and through us, right? That this individuated consciousness that we have, that is this divine higher power, yeah, in us, holographically, so to speak. Yeah, and that by acting according to it and embodying it, we are growing into our higher purpose. That is what true spirituality means. It doesn't have anything to do with how you contextualize it. If you contextualize it with a book that is 2,000 years old or 600 years old or 4,000 or 3,500 years old, it doesn't really matter. Or 8,000 years old. Yeah, there's traditions all over the place. But when it comes to self-healing, guys, traditions and ceremonies and spiritual settings, yeah, spiritual context will be what will really help us in this month and the coming months, where we're going to see a bit of a collapse here of this global shadow. Yeah. Another opportunity is this experience of new life force through trust and self, and I'll go into this in a bit more detail here in a minute, through learning how to control our own vibrational energies a little better. Yes, and you guys have already figured this out. There's a walking the talk component in this sort of task that we all have right now. Yeah, when we talk about embodiment, when we talk about being true to ourselves, saying yes to our true selves and so forth, all that has to do with being serious, making this a conscious choice. Yeah, and positive side effect will be that we will be able to dissolve very, very old patterns. You know, sometimes even those that aren't even from this lifetime. Self-healing tasks for this month are a very important discipline of mind and thoughts. There is a lot of overlay in regards to our thought and value programming that's coming from the outside, but not just through media, guys. It's very important. I mean, you know, when I say media, I don't just mean mainstream media news. I also mean music. I also mean the arts, movies, and fashion and all these kind of things. Yeah, they all contribute to this programming, but we are all primed in a certain way, and that's been going on for much longer. Yeah, this priming is usually expressed in our fixation on the external, on the material. And when I say fixation on material, I don't just mean money. You know, when a person sees themselves as a bag of flesh, as you know, a bunch of cells and a DNA and some programs, and treats the human brain or the human consciousness like a computer, and sees you know, human life as something machine-like, all right, that too is a fixation on the material. And that is something that I've often referred to as one of the two darknesses. You can look this up in the other YouTube videos, the explainer YouTube videos here on the channel. Yeah, so we have been primed for that, but probably the easiest way to detect that is in this orientation towards getting, needing, and owning. Yeah, believing that whatever it is that you're trying to avoid, or whatever it is that you're not getting, whatever it is that you kind of think you need, and this includes dopamine, this includes excitement, adrenaline, you know, the quick fix for things through, you know, and you fill in the blank, be it, you know, getting new clothes, new house, new sneakers, you know, better job, a drug, you know, more likes on Facebook or whatever. Yeah, we need to form a discipline here. Many of you know this. I'm a martial artist at heart, and often my kids they're all in martial arts, and people often ask me, well, don't you think it's too violent and blah blah blah? I'm like, no, on the contrary. All right, by teaching kids how to yield, how to harness all of this, how to regulate themselves physically, and how to know, you know, when is what appropriate, and train themselves to train the right muscle memory to you know, have a good stance and not be too shocked when there is a little bit of impact. Yeah, to form resilience in a certain way, they can make much better decisions. They can be calm in situations that stress other people, and you know, they can think of strategies that they can calm other people down. They can really have this super healing and super sort of calming effect on others. And That's why I'm a big proponent of martial arts, because it teaches a person how to work with these energies. So it's not violent, it actually prevents violence. And if you look at that, if you look at energy work, for example, as something similar, yeah, for me, it's like the martial arts of harnessing our energies, our life force, yeah, then you'll understand it. There's also a connection, obviously, with martial arts and energy work. There's famous examples, you know, Bruce Lee and so forth, who and Tai Chi masters and so forth, who really don't use any physical contact or any physical impact whatsoever, you know, to protect themselves or to defeat somebody. So it's the discipline, and the discipline comes through training and through really sort of regimen, you know, through, you know, systematic energy management, but also holistic health regimens. Yeah, we have to like really put ourselves into a place that allows us to deal with stuff, to be resilient. Yeah, and this starts with nutrition and it ends with energy work. So pacing and prioritizing, very, very important in this month. This month has a lot to do with rhythms, hence there's a synchronicity component here, and for many of us, we'll find that the most effective way to really find sort of this power back, this center within ourselves, is through stillness and even prayer. It's the reason why I'm starting with daily energy prayers on YouTube Live on Monday, which you guys are all invited to come. It's a live event that happens every day at the same time at 11:30 Eastern US time. So that's like a late afternoon in Europe, and right around, I think, early afternoon. I might be completely off here, maybe noon or late morning in Australia. You know, every day at the same time. Yeah, because this is for September the most effective self-healing resonance that I could come up with, and I'm going to show you here why that is the case. It's really about finding our center, and again, as I mentioned before, the spiritual center, the karmic purpose reveals itself through that. And when somebody, I want to say, identifies that karmic purpose, there is a huge relief, there's a huge healing momentum that occurs. In that moment, you look back on your life and you see all the things that you couldn't see before, and you're seeing them now, but you no longer feel the need to beat yourself up. You understand, and you have compassion for yourself and for all the people involved in all of this, and you realize that everything had to be the way it was for you to arrive at this moment here with this level of consciousness. Yeah. And then these things like saying yes to your true self and your needs and your wants and all this becomes easy. Becoming real is then basically sort of your new MO. You can't do any different, because if you do, once you've aligned yourself to truth, to your inner truth, you know, it's painful if you lie to yourself, or if you fake it, or if you're not congruent, if you're inauthentic. Yeah, Cindy, it's that stillness. Yeah, I could hear this in your sharing earlier, that that's what you meant. So purpose finds you when you say yes to your true self. This is a bit of a mind bender, because we're so programmed, so conditioned to seek purpose. Yeah, it's the other way around, guys. I talk about it a lot. Yeah. Your journey is not about becoming better at finding your purpose, but getting better at letting go of what's in the way of feeling your purpose. Yeah, these blocks that we've talked about earlier. Here, just like really, really quick, guys, because we're running out of time as always. Some of the collective developments in September. We're looking at possible lockdowns. Some areas will be more affected than other areas, obviously. You know, because there's a sort of a timely delay in our countries and our continents in regards to like these COVID waves and and also has to do with our infrastructure and our political system and so forth. But there'll be substantial lockdowns, and there'll be substantial unrest coming in this month. Very, very visual, very clear, all over the news. People enraged, sometimes about the lockdowns, sometimes about not having lockdowns, sometimes about face masks, sometimes about not wanting to have face masks. Okay, do you see what I'm saying? It's kind of like yeah, almost crazy. Yeah, because it really seems that people just really need to find an outlet to let go of all this stress that they have been holding in all this time, with having been promised things, with having been told that everything's going to be fine, everything is going to go back to normal and so forth. September is a month that, you know, that will bring so many revelations, data and so forth, that it will be clear now that it isn't going to be that way. It isn't that easy that we can just make things go away. We're going to have to learn to live with it, to work with it. Yes, it's a relief. It's a release valve in September. Yeah, that's right, Justine. Therefore, I recommend all of you to have to form a certain kind of readiness for this. And when I say readiness, I picked this word on purpose. I did not want to say preparedness, because when I say preparedness, at least here in the United States, people think of like, you know, digging a bunker and getting food for a year. This is not what I'm talking about. What I mean is you really being ready to be okay with that. Yeah, to be okay with, you know, maybe some foods that you normally eat, that you can't have them for a while, or that they're like double the price than they normally are. Or, you know, some people just kind of disappearing out of your life because they're you know, they're somewhere else, that they're dealing with something. That things, you know, at work may escalate a little more and more. Pressure will be felt there in regards to a bunch of different things, not just the vaccines, guys. This goes farther. You got to understand that that's just the beginning. Okay. So, you know, you got to be ready to step out if something is unhealthy for you. This is your promise to your own soul self. This is what guides you into your purpose, to at least say no to what you know isn't true or isn't healthy for you. You don't have to have the fix or the solution. You just need to know when to say no. And I'm not referring to vaccines here, don't get me wrong. If everybody has to make that decision based on their inner true self, okay? And that has to do with being fully conscious, aware, and awake when you make that decision. Not because you're pressured, not because all your friends are calling you names, or, you know, you get kicked out of a party or whatever. You know, these things are all happening right now. And for people who are feeling all of this on this energetic level and empathically, it's terrible right now. So what I mean is, be ready, you know, to refrain from things. Be ready to be okay to, you know, not have movie theaters for another year. Be okay with your favorite restaurant not being open or just really restricted. Be okay with, you know, not being able to go to the mall or taking a vacation this year. Okay, this is what I mean with that. There are elements of financial markets responding strongly this month. Yeah, let me say this diplomatically. So readiness can also occur in the way that we start rethinking our strategy here, how we are making money. Yeah, and if this is really what we want to do, there is a new course starting here at transCODES in how to actually turn, you know, you wanting to help people, you wanting to, you know, become someone who serves others into a business, and how to do this successfully as an energetically sensitive, empathic person, because there are certain things in regards to sales and marketing that will not work for you. Yeah, so just on a side note here, there's this 10-year anniversary discount that I'm giving right now that is running out on the 31st of August. Lots of discoveries. This is on a positive note here. You know, actually really, really cool things. What I'm seeing right now is COVID long hauler medicines that will lead to other new discoveries that will help us to deal with, you know, COVID stuff, but not just COVID stuff, also new discoveries about viruses altogether. I've been indicating this to you, that there is a lot about the human virome that is being discovered right now. So in the end, we'll look back to this time and say, yes, this was a you know, tough time. This was a difficult time, but so much good came out of this time. This is starting this month, so there's also positive developments there. They might not be fully visible for us right away. Increased vibrations, and that, unfortunately, for someone who doesn't quite understand how energies work, often misunderstood. Increased vibration doesn't mean all good. Increased vibrations means more polarization. It means that there is a stronger impact of that, whether that be through planetary influences, so very, very strong planetary influences that affect our rhythms here on this planet, that also have to do with the Earth's changes and weather changes. Okay, you barely ever hear me talk about climate change because I'm not seeing it that way. All right, I'm seeing planetary influences, and I'm seeing spiritual influences that affect the rhythms of the Earth. Yeah, and last but not least, an alienation that is continuing here amongst us, which hints at the separation and division between us, the bifurcation, but with a twist this month. I'm not going through the individual layers. I'm just showing you the slides. You can look at this in the video and stop the video here because at this point it feels redundant. I just want to quickly point at the energetic aspects where we will feel this. We'll feel this very strongly about our first and seventh chakra, our root and our crown. I've explained a few things earlier why this is relevant, because it messes with our perception. It messes with our perception of ourself, of life itself, and our own sort of, yeah, I mean, purpose, the meaning of life, I guess, and security, like how we feel secure within ourselves. It will also affect our second and fourth chakra. That's our emotional processing, and you know, how we contextualize connection. We need to focus more on connection, because we'll find out quickly that whenever we connect with other people and connect deeper within, that we will start feeling things dissolve. All right. Strong resistance here between, you know, in that membrane between the second and third chakra creates catharsis, a healing crisis. In other words, the collapse. That's the collapse of the false self that I've mentioned too. That's what this looks like. There is another membrane between the third and the fourth, which is not the same. This one is more emotional. So September indicates that we're dealing with quite a few ragey energies. This is just a reference here for you as I am continuing to speak about vibrational levels here for a minute. This is what it looks like here on the map of consciousness, the calibrated levels of consciousness by Dr. Hawkins. The energies for September are calibrating right here below fear. This is sort of a desperation kind of energy that also reminds of loss and grief. And this sort of between anger and pride, which is this rage and sort of vengeance kind of energy. That's a very low, very strong gravity this month. And at the same time, and this is the cool part here, this is what makes people like me optimistic, really, really strong energy in regards to love and compassion, Yeah, what can happen with us humans when we encounter each other in crisis together, when we come together and heal together. It is the reason for me to start these energy prayers that we do every day, very quickly, not much talk, just coming together, quick exchange of how we're feeling, and maybe listening to one sharing and then going into prayer together. Very similar to how church groups would do this, just without the churchy stuff. Okay, so for people who believe in God or a higher power, no matter what religion you're from, it doesn't contradict anything. We just literally aligning ourselves to this higher power that brought us into existence, the source of all existence. Okay, and that is evident. It doesn't matter what you name it. Yeah, it's there, and that's not woo. All right, and to understand this better, yeah, here at transCODES, my body of work is all about this. Okay, every single modality out of my 52 modalities, and all the different courses and so forth that I've created, they all are about this. But I want to spell this out. What activities are creating low vibrations, and what activities are creating high vibrations? And when I say activities, I'm not necessarily saying that you're actively doing this, but if you find yourselves in these states in a prolonged time, and energize them. How do we energize those states? We've learned this earlier, through resistance, through avoidance. Yeah, and sometimes even, thinking that we're doing spiritual work, trying to meditate things away. It's still energizing lower vibratory energies, because all we can think about is how to make this go away. Yeah, if this is your attachment, you don't want to feel this, then you're energizing it. It needs to be very clear to everybody. This is conscious energy management. That's why I get so intense when I talk about this. Yeah, and what is this? Fatigue, fear, nervous tension, rage, hate. These are the obvious. But avoidance, irritation, noise, pride, superiority, blame, that's not so much aware to people, that these are very low vibratory resonances. And when we energize them, or when we entertain them, even if we just ingest them by proximity, we're lowering our vibration, that of our body, that of our immune system, that of our etheric immune system, and we become more susceptible, not just to viruses, yes, also to viruses, but also to negative energies from other people, negative energies from the collective that you're in, from the job site, from the relationship. Yeah, you're more likely to absorb all of this and become it. And as a result of that, also see the manifestations of it in your life. The manifestations of lower vibrations. And that has to do with resonance. You can only understand this if you see things in a more sort of field way. You look at things as fields. For me personally, the best comparison is always with weather areas, with high pressure and low pressure areas. It's not one point, it's a whole field. Yeah, and that field can either expand or contract. And there's a sort of a battle of resonances going on between high pressure and low pressure areas. Yeah, if you for example, know what a hurricane or a typhoon is, okay, it's literally a concentration of low pressure area. Okay, and that basically sucks in everything that is around it and creates this huge big steering pot. Yeah, and high pressure areas push clouds away. They push all the bad weather away and create clear skies and sunlight. And that's what maybe how you can see, how you can contextualize energies. They work in the same way, within us, around us, and through us. High vibrations are states or activities that energize generosity. Yeah, giving things, doing things for others, serving others, caring for something outside of yourself. Gratitude, expressing your gratitude towards other people, even towards, the bird and the bees and the flies, yeah, the trees or the you know, whatever, you know, your dog or animals or whatever, you know, these nature spirits and, you know, maybe even, you know, spirit beings. Many of you like to believe in angels in some form, and not saying that they're not true. I have made a lot of lectures about angels on my YouTube channel. Yeah, so, you know, express your gratitude towards this higher power, towards, you know, this spiritual world. You are a spiritual being. You are a soul. A soul is a spiritual being with a physical body. All right, where do you think you're from? Yeah, if it's not your body, that means you're from the spiritual realm. That's your home. You think that there's nothing going on while you were here on 3D? Think about that. We've talked a little bit about this in the last workshop. Yeah, this alignment to the spirit realm, not astral. That's different. That's like the fantasy of people, magic, Wicca, all these kind of things, guys. It's all lower vibratory stuff. Yeah, I don't want to go deeper into this here right now. Compassion. Yeah, this can be expressed as compassion towards ourselves or others. Neutrality, one of the most difficult to find commodities these days. To be neutral, to not get polarized, to not blame, to not bicker about things, to not point fingers or accuse people. It doesn't matter, guys. You know, you can have your opinions, you can have your disagreements, but when somebody is in truth, you automatically stand in neutrality with things. That doesn't mean that you're dissociated, that you're disconnected from what is going on. No, you can still feel a lot of compassion, you can have empathy and so forth. But it means that you are not pulled into either direction. Yeah, neither attached nor are you resisting something. Love and compassion for all living beings, guys, is a very high vibratory resonance for all living beings. And things that are not so obvious for people, for example, beauty, and I don't mean pretty, I mean beauty, like, you know, the beauty that a flower has, the beauty that a bowl of fruits, or, you know, a bouquet of flower has, something that is innately beautiful, and we can all feel this in our system, in our body. Trust in self. Guess what? Self-doubt, self-berating, self-judgment is extremely low vibratory stuff. Yeah, ranges here from self-hatred to self-blame, even superiority with yourself. Very low vibratory. So trust in self, saying yes to yourself and learning to trust in yourself. Also saying no to what is unhealthy, yes, and setting your boundaries and enforcing them in conjunction with others is also something that helps you to trust in yourself and the other. Body love. I've explained this on occasion. Body love is the love that you feel, the attitude towards your own body. Yes, you're a spirit being, yes, but that doesn't mean that you can neglect your body. Your body is your vehicle here. It is basically sort of the pinnacle of physical 3D creation. There's nothing on this planet that is, you know, as complex and evolved as the human body, including its consciousness. Yes, there are animals out there that are equally high evolutionary on their species ladder, okay? But we are not just the higher evolved animals. What we share here, this individuated conscious self, yeah, the ability to witness our own soul self, that is unique to us humans, guys. And the body carries this, it houses it. So we need to take care of that. We need to love our body here in this incarnation. Forgiveness for self and others. It is easy to forgive when you understand the purpose in your life, and when you look back and you recognize how much you couldn't see before. And it's even easier to forgive yourself for future transgressions, if you will, because you then understand that your ego mind, the part in you that produces this kind of reality, what appears or what seems to be in a certain way, that's valuable. And you know that there will always be things that you are not able to see or temporarily not able to see because you're blocked there somehow by your subconscious. You will understand that, and forgiveness will be no problem for you because you can see this in others. You see the true self in others. You see the struggling true self in others. You see the hurt true self. You see the false self in others, and it's easy to forgive because you know that this too is a soul trying to grow into this higher expression of embodiment. And all it means is that this person is on a different timeline, so it may take a bunch more years for this person, maybe a bunch more timelines, lifetimes. Reason has to do with consciousness, not with mentalism. To be able to reason is not the same as sort of intellectual debate. Reason has to do with really having your own thoughts, freely thinking, freely questioning and investigating things based on how you do to your own heart, mind's capability, see things and ask yourself, I wonder why that is. I wonder why it feels this way to me right now. I wonder, what else is there? What am I actually afraid of? Is there something that, I need to look at? Is there something I'm not seeing? This sort of conscious self-reporting investigation is not the same as turning every stone and trying to be perfect and beating yourself up for making a mistake. It's something different. It's much higher vibratory rate, and so is joy. Pleasure, where we just want the next high and the next hit. Dopamine, adrenaline. Just going from one sort of pleasure to the next. That is not joy. That is something that is supposed to help us through, being able to deal with an emotion. It's something that's supposed to just get us through for the moment of trauma. But if we become addicted to pleasure, we are never actually dealing with it, which means that we are driving and re-traumatizing ourselves deeper and deeper into the pain. That's why addictions never work. And the biggest or most difficult addiction that we're all up against as humans here in this 3D is the addiction to ego. Because ego is supposed to make us feel good. In times when, we don't know who we are. All right. And at the time, this might be the best thing to do. But then a day later, it might not be the best because you have learned something and need to adjust that. And ego has that gravity into what's most familiar. That's why it's so susceptible to mind control and programming. One of the highest vibratory energies that we can actively align ourselves through our behavior, through our actions here in this life, in this 3D love, is community prayer. Healing together. Helping another, serving another. So here, the short version for all of you who don't want to listen to 1.5 hours of talk about, the deeper aspects of, what actually is happening here underneath the surface of mainstream media and so forth. Quick word in regards to crypto energies, because a lot of people ask me about this. Many energetically sensitive people feel attracted to the cryptocurrency, the blockchain market, because they recognize that there are things going on that allow certain higher levels of freedom and self-sustainability within reason. Obviously, there's dark sides to that as well. September is going to be a big FOMO month, fear of missing out, meaning that we're looking at quite a bit of volatility, but towards the positive side. So there really is something bigger now, sort of setting in by like the 20th of September. I think we'll see that we can call this, you know, something like a sustainable upward movement until the end of the year, actually the beginning of January, like 14th of January, for sure. Also a really good season for altcoins, but you have to be careful because with FOMO, yeah, with the fear of missing out, there's a lot of greed in that market. And whenever there's greed in the market, there comes this fear. Yeah, actually fear of missing out. Yeah, greed, in fact, is a fear. Okay, it can be very volatile. So many of you have started to join the cryptocurrency market like 4 or 5 years ago when I started talking about it, doing webinars and so forth. If you started then, you know, when Bitcoin was $1,000 or $2,000 or $6,000, or even when you started when it was $19,000, you know, and you just stuck with it, you know, like I recommended back then, you don't need to worry about anything. Those of you who are speculating a lot, you need to be careful in September because a lot of people will be speculating. And in that, it will take on the same sort of, I want to say, dynamics as you see on Wall Street and the other financial markets. So the financial markets are going to rattle in September. Here a few important dates. Lots of confusion, lots of new data that will be very, very confusing. And sometimes you really don't know what's going on because you see this, and then on the other hand, everybody else is talking about something else. And it's like you question your own perception if you even saw it. I went through this in the end of July. I was like, you know, okay, here's the data we've been waiting for. Okay, well, wait, nobody's seeing that? Did I just make this up? And I had to like literally go back and copy all the links of the medical studies that I've read, you know, and list them for myself, yeah, to prove to myself that these studies actually exist because everybody's ignoring them. Yeah, and this will continue here throughout the month. Actually, it's a big month of revelations, and really hard to understand sometimes because we will be in such a state of confusion in the media that you really won't be able to tell anymore. It's best to stay away from mainstream media. Here to the third part of the month, I called it media was the theme of the year. Go back to my forecasts for 21, you know, forecast 21 till 23. Now all of what I said back then makes sense. You see it now. Anyway, yeah, around the 6th of the month, this is, you know, kind of periodic here, but very, very strong this month, right before the new moon energies are setting in. There is these purge energies, these cathartic release energies. Yeah, there's some countries that will be more affected by this. Right now, I can only say I've mentioned this in one of the energy updates already. Germany is going through something there. It's very interesting for me. Many of you know I went to school and university in Germany, hence my German accent. Australia as well, Canada as well. So you're going to see a bunch of things coming down now here in these this first week or two in September, and then it will be kind of like a domino roll and build through all our collectives. So this escalation phase here till the middle of the month is something that you can use to get your ducks in row. You know, if you have been contemplating about making some big changes in your life, making a decision, you know, leaving your husband or quitting your job or whatever, or your job is pressuring you too much or whatever, this would be the time to make an active step forward so that you don't feel that it's happening to you. Yeah, so the first 2 weeks of September you want to use for active steps because that will make you feel you're in charge. Okay, After that, so after around the 16th, you know, which is actually a really positive energy. It's really sort of increase in these manifestation energies, so things will speed up. Okay, but if there was something going on where things are very bifurcated, then it can always mean both. And the way things are right now, I'm expecting things such as, yeah, terror attacks. I mean, let me say it out loud. I don't want to scare you guys, but there is stuff going on. Okay, it will come to these releases in the world, not like, you know, we're all gonna die, but you know, things that will really become like, okay, you know, shit's on. Yeah. So understand that by the time we have a full moon, which is the 21st, and these are these periodicals every month, you know, with full moon and new moon intensities, we'll be looking at quite a bit going on there in our media. And this month is very particular because we're looking at the equinox, which is, you know, the time of the year where darkness and light basically stand against another in equal powers, so to speak, yeah, day and night. Here in the northern hemisphere where it gets darker again, and in the southern hemisphere where it gets brighter again. And then, you know, we're gonna have some stuff come up there in that time, yeah, like more pressure, more escalation, arrests. Don't know what that is exactly, but that's how it comes forward. And then we're going to come into the end of the month with a very harmonic impulse. And for many of us, it will really bring us together. So there's beautiful aspects of this. Yeah, it's not just all doom and gloom. I want you to see that we as humans have an enormous power when we come together. Yeah, the only thing that can make us powerless is when we feel separated and alone. And that's why we need to stop that. We need to stop that within ourselves, that we feel alone. You see, we can reinforce this with ourselves through, you know, talking to our true self as sort of the intermediary, the connector with the translator with higher power. Help me and remind me to stay awake and aware, so I can see through the distractions of fear and loss. Soul purpose shines through in how much love you can express. Here at transCODES, we're going to investigate this further, something very, very beautiful here starting tomorrow morning, the Grace Redemption Marathon, a 72-hour energy work marathon, not an easy undertaking. We do this every month for those of you who really want to go deep. Very, very cool experiences that people have there. We're doing this together. It's open for everybody. You can sign up for it. And starting on Saturday, the daily energy prayers on YouTube. Yeah, sign up. Easiest way for you to get reminders is to subscribe to my YouTube channel, because every time I go live, you're going to get a reminder, you know, that it's going on right now. Yes, and last but not least, due to me celebrating 10-year anniversary of transCODES True Self transmissions. Those are the free energy sessions that I do every month. 10 years, long, long time. I could never imagine where this would lead me. One day I'm giving away lots of discounts and specials, one of which is the Heart Warrior Bootcamp, a very popular 3-month program that I have for 50% off. Starting for it's 3 months, so basically September, October, November, because I recognize that this time really wakes people up. And if you are feeling this, then check this out, because it's only really half the price of what it normally is. Those of you who want to turn this into a profession, who want to learn how to turn this into something like a coaching business or a remote consulting business, there's the discount on the energy, the business and development course, and then a new course coming out in September called the Energy Course, which teaches the deeper aspects of energy work. These are all discounted specials that I have here to celebrate my 10-year anniversary. And all this concludes the forecast. We're running out of time, so I can't really do a longer discussion with you here, but I can send my gratitude and appreciation to all of you who have worked with transcodes, with supported transcodes in your ways, there's so many volunteers amongst you that do daily meditations using transcodes meditations, you know, in so many different ways, that a big part of this success is contributed to you. Yeah, without you, I would have never been able to do this. So thank you to all of you here, to all of you coming to these live sharings, and, you know, who not being afraid of coming out of the woodwork and recognizing the healing power and coming in together in this way. Yes, guys, I'm wishing you a wonderful September. I hope to see you guys in one or the other session or workshop. Yeah, don't forget to ask for a free energy coaching consultation with me if you've never had one, where we can work something like a roadmap for you, how to approach things, and yeah, come to the free sessions if you don't have the money to work directly with me. Love you guys. Wishing you a wonderful one.